Hello. Today I want to talk to you about charging what you're worth. Now this is a topic that I guess I've lived through it. I've started out many years ago, and I was employed as a subcontractor to a printing company. So I had my own ABN number, and I had basically been employed full time at this job, but I was technically getting paid kind of like a wage. So it was a certain hourly rate, and I'd just invoice him at the end of the month. And at that point, I was only young, and it only worked out to be about $14 per hour. So when I decided to leave that job and actually start my own business, I thought I'd go all out. I was going to charge $30. So $30 per hour was my going rate for graphic design work. Now at the time, I struggled to get work. I got a few jobs here and there, and if people would ask you, how much is this design, I'd say, oh, it's $30 per hour. Now looking back now, I would do it very, very differently. But at that stage, I was sort of thinking, well, I'm getting paid double what I would get paid if I worked on my own. Plus, I was able to then get some printing work on the back end and put some markup on that and make some money on the printing. So, I was making lots of money as far as I was concerned. But over time, I started to get told a few things by some different marketing people that I was talking to and listening to, and they were always talking about how you can put your prices up. Why don't you put your prices up? And they kind of showed me the model that if you can put your prices up, you can actually lose a lot of clients and still break even. Especially when you're talking about a product that has some form of markup. So it's like if a product costs you $20 and you're selling it for $30, and you suddenly take it from $30 up to $40, it's a 25% increase, but you're actually doubling your profit. So you can sell half the amount and still be at the same rate. It's a little bit different when you talk about hourly rates, but that general concept always sort of appealed to me, that you could lose half the clients, make the same amount, do half the work. Great form of leverage. Back to my story. I decided that I got pretty busy, and I thought, well, let's just see how I go. I'll just up my prices to $60 an hour. So I started saying that when people would ask, and nobody batted an eyelid. Like literally 0 people questioned that price. I won just as many jobs, if not, I actually probably won more jobs when I'd increased my price. Thought that was strange, and I probably had it increased for about 6 months before I thought, well, let me try again, and then I bumped it up to $100 an hour. And the same thing, I got busier. So it was really counterintuitive to me. And looking back now, I can see why that was the case. Now, it actually took me a long time from there to actually charge more now. I charge at least, at minimum, $200 an hour if I'm going to bill hourly, but I just technically don't bill by the hour. I will basically bill based on what value I'm providing. 1 hour I can deliver $1,000 worth of value for some clients, and others it's a lot less, in which case, depending on what skill set I'm using. So I really charge per project now, or charge, if I'm going to do a call, it'll be X amount for that call. And if the call takes 30 minutes or if it takes an hour and a half, it doesn't really matter. It's what I'm actually delivering that they're paying for. But looking back now, the reason I had that mindset, that it was like, okay, well, if I charge less, more people are going to use me. The only people who have that attitude are people who have no money. If you've grown up poor, or if you have no money yourself, or if you're on a tight budget, your number one buying decision is technically price in most situations, because you simply don't have the option. If you can't afford it, you can't buy it. When you're a teenager, or you're at uni, or if you don't have a decent income, or if you've grown up in a family where you've been quite poor, or you haven't had those opportunities with seeing people with a lot of money, you tend to just view the world through that lens of that people buy things because they're cheap and they're looking for the best deal. Now look, people are always looking for great value. People don't want to overpay. However, people also don't want to pay for crap. And often a sign of crap is the price. So one of the things you will find is if you go to the shops, you've got a number of different brands to buy. You've got the home brand, which is usually on the cheap end. Then you've got the sort of standard, and then you've got the gourmet or the luxury brands. That's typically the way you'll see a lot of products priced. And you can tell what they are by the price. And there's a lot of people out there who will wait for the gourmet to be on special at the standard rate, or they'll wait for the standard to go on special to the cheap rate, because that's kind of where they are. But there's certain things that people don't want to scrimp on. Now, when I was in commercial printing and graphic design, people don't want a cheap designer. People don't want the cheap thing. What they want is they want the expensive thing for cheap. But in some instances, you don't want the discount either. So think of it like this. When it comes to choosing your doctor, let's say you've got heart surgery you need. Your heart surgeon, you don't want the cheap heart surgeon. You want the expensive one, the one with a lot of experience, because obviously the more expensive they are, typically the more experience they'll have. Now in that situation, you also don't want to get the 2-for-1 discount that's on offer by the heart surgeon either, because you know that if it's on at a discount, that you're probably going to get a reduced level of service. And when it comes to the really important things, often people are willing to pay premium. They want to pay premium. Nobody's looking for the cheapest heart surgeon necessarily. They're not, that might be a factor in their pricing. If they find two they can trust, they'll go with the cheapest, but they're not looking for the cheapest. That's not their primary concern. And that is the case with a lot of industries. So I think the first thing you need to look at when you're coming to price yourself is to, firstly, price yourself appropriately to where you plan to be. So what I mean is if let's say you're a graphic designer starting out, and because you're starting out, you're thinking, well, I don't have any experience, I just want to charge, $30 an hour. But the average in the industry is $100 an hour. Now, if you come in at the $30 an hour or at the $70 an hour, you may get people use you, but you'll find that the only people who are going to use you are the ones seeking cheap designers. And I can tell you with 100% certainty, those clients will be headache clients. They want a discount, they don't pay on time, they expect way more than the ones who are just willing to pay full price. So you really want to avoid them. So the way I would recommend that you approach these sorts of things is you put your prices at the standard rate. So be the $100 an hour graphic designer. And then when someone inquires, hey, what's your pricing? You say, look, my typical price is $100 per hour, but look, for first time clients, look, I am actually willing to give a 50% discount on your first design. So it's only $50 an hour. Now they're going to be absolutely thrilled by that, and they'll be saying, "Oh, wow, that's great, thanks so much. Yeah, go ahead, do the design." Now they've suddenly got a $100 designer for $50. So you'll find that the experience for them is much nicer than if you said, "Oh, well, look, I charge $50 an hour," because one, they would expect it sort of sets you as, "Oh, I'm a cheap designer," which means their expectation on the quality of work is going to be lower. Now, obviously, you need to develop your skill and become the point where you feel confident charging that full amount. But while you're starting out, you need to get the experience. And you'll find that if people have been given that discount, if the work's not quite to the level that it needs to be, there will be a little bit more forgiveness there as you develop those skills. But all in all, I would highly recommend you don't set your prices as cheap. You don't be a cheap designer. You be a regular price designer offering a discount of some sort. And I wouldn't be putting up on your social medias 50% off the design, 50% off this, 50% off that. You really want to let that be something that you give to them after they've inquired about pricing. Or what you do is you don't even give them the discount. Start by saying, yeah, look, it's $100 per hour. Your project will be this. does that fit your budget? If they say, yes, sure, go ahead, you've just doubled your price, doubled your income. If, of course, they then say, oh, look, that's a bit more than I wanted to pay, then you have the option of going back to them and saying, oh, well, that's great. Look, this month I'm actually offering 50% off your first design. So I'm happy to do it at this price. Would that work for you? And you'll find a lot of people will be absolutely thrilled by that and they'll go ahead. So all in all, when it comes to pricing yourself, make sure that you are actually charging what you're worth, charging where you plan to be, not where you might think that you should be. And if you are willing to work for less, let that be a discount rather than your set price. Thanks for watching. Take care.